Greetings, fellow nerds, and welcome back to Two Nerds vs. the Internet. My name is Andrew, and I am the resident nerd and host. Tag along each week as I'm joined by a fellow nerd, and we discuss and debate a wide variety of topics across several different fandoms, giving our point of views on why it's the best and why you should agree with us. So with that, let's introduce my guest for the episode, Derek.
Yay!
Hey, Derek. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
Excellent.
Welcome to Two Nerds vs. the Internet. So, let's just dive right in.
All right.
Today's topic is
Video game consoles.
video game consoles. Now, I know there's a lot there. That's a lot of topic to cover.
Yeah.
Because it's just so much content.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Video games have been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
Do
Long,
you
long
know
time.
when the first console was released?
My guess would be like 1972, 73, something like that.
You're not far off.
Okay.
We'll get into the specifics of things later.
Mhm.
Pong, as an arcade, was released in 72.
Okay.
So you're not far off.
Not far off.
Yep. So tell me, obviously you've played video games a
Yeah.
time or two.
Yeah.
What have been some of your general experiences with video games?
I mean, for me, I got into them when I was a kid. So, first start off with arcade stuff, obviously.
Right.
That was the only way to do it.
Right.
You had to go to the arcade. You couldn't play from home. And maybe that tells my age.
That's okay. That's okay.
But no, you had to go to the arcade. So places like we had Chuck E. Cheese.
Yep.
That was a big one.
Yep.
Or you had your malls, but definitely like a Chuck E. Cheese. You go
Yeah.
there and it's just a plethora of arcade games. And you're trying to get them all. You're trying to play everything you can. And the games, the way they were designed, weren't always geared for your age per se.
Right.
It was just, this is the game, here's the challenge, can you do it?
Right.
And that was about it. And I've never thought if they had like a guess an age group that they were targeting. Like, is it teens or is it, it just didn't matter because adults were playing games.
Sure.
So, some of my first games I played was like Tron.
Right.
You play a Tron game or Pac-Man or Donkey Kong. It's just, move you move the control stick, hit the button, jump over this object. Can you do that? Pac-Man, can you use the joystick to maneuver around a maze?
Right.
Simple things like that. Galaga, can you move the joystick just left and right and hit the shoot button enough times to keep enemies from getting you? Space Invaders, things like that. So, most things started from the arcades, and then people started getting smart. It's like, they can do this at the house. So how can we bring the arcade experience home?
Right.
And it just opened up a whole new wide world.
Right.
Yeah.
And I the research I was doing kind of in prep for this episode, I want to talk a lot about the various video game consoles, but I do think there's a whole separate conversation we can have on just arcade games.
Oh, yeah.
And even the predecessor to what we would consider a video game of a pinball machine.
Yeah, definitely.
And how complex those are as a game. And everything that goes into them and how popular they still are today.
Right now, yeah.
And have a lot more of a video game aspect to them. But that was still kind of a precursor to a video game.
Yeah.
Which is impressive to think about that pinball machines have been around that long.
Long time.
You make a good point because, some of the research I did was Pong, like I said, released in 1972. And that's not even the first real, what we know of games today.
Yeah.
But it was a console at an arcade.
Yeah.
It was a big box at the arcade that you could play Pong. And it was revolutionary and groundbreaking. But even to step it back a little bit from there, what I looked up and what I found out is that a gentleman named Ralph H. Baer conceived of the idea of a at-home video game console in 1966.
Wow, okay.
He was working for a group called Sanders and Associates.
Okay.
And they were doing all sorts of different electronics at the time. And he saw the market for home television.
Okay.
He saw how home TV was becoming a bigger and bigger thing for people, a little bit more affordable. And he's sitting there going, well, what if there was a way we could play a game on there?
Yeah.
Because something that had predated what his concepts were systems that were computers.
Yeah.
It was the original giant room-filling computer.
Yeah.
Not quite to that level, but pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
And you could play basic math games like tic-tac-toe.
Yeah.
Something that was very easy to say, put this shape in this location,
Mm-hmm.
put this shape in this location. Or there were a couple other games, but they were all very simple, and you didn't have any kind of a screen. So
Yeah.
he had the idea, what if I could interface with a home TV screen?
Yeah.
So that I could bring these games home to people, be able to play it. And that's when the concept for the brown box came up.
Yeah.
And they call it that because it was just this little console that they had slapped some wood veneer on
Mm-hmm.
to give it this nice, clean aesthetic.
Okay.
And it was just a brown box, but it was like a microcomputer for the time. Still kind of the size of, like the Xbox 360 essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably weighed a ton.
But the best you could play on there was something as simple as it was like a table tennis game.
Yeah.
Kind of a predecessor to Pong. That was the best they could do at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to build that with a couple other engineers at the Sanders and Associates group. They let him kind of work on that as a pet project. Didn't actually get any kind of a patent on that until sometime in '73, which is crazy.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Takes a while.
It took a while, but they also didn't think that they needed one
Yeah.
at the time. And immediately following all of this, in 1972, there was the first true at-home console, was the Odyssey.
The Odyssey. Yep. Yeah. I never played the Odyssey. I always saw pictures of the Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anyone who actually had an Odyssey. I had heard of it as a kid, but I didn't know what it was.
Sure.
Had zero idea about it.
Well, it was patented by Sanders and Associates. They kind
Yeah.
of took the concept of the brown box and said, well, what if we turn this into a legit thing?
Yeah.
And it was made by a company called Magnavox.
Magnavox, yeah.
So it was the Magnavox Odyssey.
Yeah.
Was the first real at-home console. Like you said, it was kind of a rare thing.
Yeah.
But it was still the leading edge of what we have today for consoles. But then, like I said, 1972, we got Pong. So it was right there after Odyssey because Ralph H. Baer and some other people left Sanders to go start Atari.
Of course. Isn't that crazy though when you think about it? Like the people, so this guy had the idea. Ralph Baer was it? Has that idea. All of a sudden, this idea starts getting everywhere.
Right.
And you want to be the first one to market. You're really trying to be the first person to put it on, but now other people have these ideas because you've got your idea.
Right.
And now everybody else is trying to get out there and do it, which even
course.
forces the whole issue of like, I gotta get this taken care of.
Yep.
Because there's a whole market for this that we don't even know about right now.
Right.
But everybody's trying to get it.
And that's something that I think we'll definitely get into in this episode that you and I have even had conversations about of how Sony got into the game.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah.
But it's crazy, like you said, of how quickly it all kind of evolves. How quickly one guy's got an idea, and now all these other people are like, well, shoot, if he could do it, I can do that.
That's right.
Let me get in on this. I
Lots of
can
smart
make
people.
something happen like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
You know, that's a pretty easy thing for me to do.
exactly.
And so it's just spawned from there into this huge market that we have today.
Yeah,
With the big three that I would consider of Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft.
Yeah.
And their ever-changing landscape of what their console is.
exactly,
Because it's not stagnant. It's never been stagnant.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just it's a fun time to be a gamer.
Oh yeah, I mean you've got all the options. There's tons of games. There's games we can't even get to.
Right.
There's games we can't get to.
Yep. and it's going to keep changing. It's going to keep growing, and I think that's something that's really exciting about the way that video games have evolved. You know, you look back at something as simple as Pong.
Yeah,
It was a turn wheel.
That's it.
2 turn wheels and a little pixel dot bouncing across the screen.
Yeah.
People lost their mind for it.
yeah.
Because you had the whole arcade system, and it was the arcade cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know when they released the home console version
For Pong,
for Pong?
it had to be on the Atari. I would assume 75.
75.
Yeah,
And it actually came out as its own home console before the Atari.
yeah. Okay, yeah.
Like just before it. They were
Yeah.
working on it, and they're like, oh, we could shrink this down some, make it a little bit of a smaller form factor.
Yeah, I remember a lot of that. Like, so that was one of my first experiences with home console. Definitely was Atari. you had to be the cool kid to have it. My neighbor across the street had it.
Hmm.
He was the only person I knew that had one at the time.
Right.
I was still used to going to the arcades, but he would say, "Come over and play something." And sometimes it's funny. Atari had a lot of different games. They had some educational games on there.
Did they?
Yeah, they had like Hangman, where you know you had to guess the word, stuff
Sure.
like that. Or and there's like a math one where you like guess the answer what it was putting out. But Pong was definitely there in Pac-Man. So I definitely with the paddle.
Hmm.
I definitely remember using that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a very important aspect of how Pong
Hmm.
worked, was having that paddle.
Right.
And it wasn't just the joysticks or directional pads, because, computers were becoming a little bit more common, not quite the same commonplace that they are today, where, we're sitting in a room and I've got 3 computers and a tablet in here, plus our phones are computers. But computers have always been that kind of background, here's how I play video games.
Hmm.
And you're limited to a keyboard more often than not. Some accessories you can add to it, but
Hmm.
Pong was big because it was, let me turn a wheel. Let me actually do something different.
Yeah. And when you think about it, think about how accessories and things work now on like certain like especially with Nintendo. We'll get into that. But Pong turning the wheel to play this game, you couldn't just use the joystick. It didn't work for that. You had to like, oh, I had to get this particular item and plug it in, and to be able to do that, or else the game doesn't really work the way
Right.
they intended it to work.
Well, there was another thing that I looked while I was doing some of this research, is that something that Nintendo does
Hmm.
with the Duck Hunt game,
Yeah.
with the light changing photo sensor,
Hmm.
that was even done earlier by the group at Atari and by some of these other groups
Okay.
as a way to try and make games a little bit more engaging than just the joystick up, down, left, right.
Got it.
So Nintendo wasn't the first to do it; they just were the ones to make it look good,
Make it look
work
good.
well.
They executed it probably the best. At
Yes,
the
they
time.
did. Yes,
Yeah.
they did. So, that's kind of where a lot of these video game consoles started.
Hmm.
What was your first video game console?
Um. So, a kid across the street had the Atari. My dad went and picked up. It was a Texas Instrument PC. It was like the TI 99/4A or something like that. You can probably look it up online and see what it looks like. It's a real crazy looking old school PC. But
Right.
everybody was trying to get their hands in the market. But the way they advertised, if you to get a home console, was to like, hey, we can. It's not just for playing games, not just mindless fun. You can also educate your children with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they kind of sold to parents. I remember my dad got me that. I had Donkey Kong, I had Pac-Man, and I had some other math game and a reading thing on there. I hardly ever used the reading and math stuff.
Sure.
It was there.
Sure.
I did it when he was sitting there,
Of course.
and then I eject and then put in Pac-Man. And this is like you have to have a little
Go for
like
the
a
Phylab
floppy
game instead.
Yeah, and you need to upload the stuff. But I had a lot of fun playing it. I mean, I
Right.
played the crap out of that on our little small TV that we had, and it was a cool fun deal. And no one had that system.
Right.
And I didn't think how not normal that was, because another neighbor of mine, when we moved to a different place, also had an Atari, but I never once asked my dad for an Atari.
Mm-hmm.
I just accepted what because I didn't ask for that. He just brought it home. I was like, okay, I can play Pac-Man on it. I can play Donkey Kong, and another time I'm outside, or we're still going to the arcade.
Right.
The arcade hasn't become like such an afterthought at that point. The home consoles hadn't taken that much ground yet,
Yep.
so you still had to go there to get a lot of stuff.
Right.
So you had options, but that was my first one that I had personally owned. I still played the Atari first, but
Sure.
that particular weird computer mix was what we had first. And then, of course, Commodore 64.
Commodore 64.
Played a lot of things
Oh,
on
yeah.
Commodore 64.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's another system called Coleco or ColecoVision.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you get your Frogger at. And I think, was that the only thing? I think Frogger was the main thing on that. I think Atari had their hands on Pitfall, which was one of the main games they liked.
Right.
Either Coleco had Pitfall or Atari. One of the two had Pitfall. But those were the kind of the big games you wanted to play back then, other than just Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. People kind of bored with that after a while.
Right.
Yeah.
So you had a Atari 2600 then.
Yo, yeah. Yeah.
Did Do you know that that's the second generation of game consoles? Technically,
Oh, really?
it's considered the second generation of game consoles.
So I'm guessing the Odyssey is in the first
Odyssey,
generation.
Pong, and the Coleco,
And the Coleco.
Telstar.
Telstar did not have the Telstar with
Yeah.
the Coleco Vision, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the Magnavox Odyssey,
Mhm.
Pong, because
Mhm.
it was its own home console,
Yeah.
and then the Coleco Telstar are considered your first generation
Okay.
of game console. What generation are we on today?
Oh God.
And don't look at the screen I'm showing.
I'm
you.
not sure. I'm gonna look. I do want to guess this. Jeez. Let me see if I can count one. So that was the second generation. That means that'd be the third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
For those of you
seventh,
reading or watching at home,
we gotta be on generation 9.
count it with his fingers. We are on generation 9. We are in the 9th generation
Gotta
of
be.
video game consoles.
You know how I counted that up?
How?
I counted up to like, okay, if the Atari is 2, like you told me, Nintendo NES has to be 3. I just
It
worked
is.
how many systems we've come up. And I was like, I think we're on 9. That's my guess.
That's a good way to do it. Yeah, I've got a chart pulled up from Wikipedia here, and you can see, you know, we had the
Oh, yeah.
Odyssey, Pong,
Oh, yeah.
and Coleco, and then we had the Fairchild Channel F.
I don't even know what that is.
Never heard of it myself
What
either.
does that mean?
Don't even know. The Atari 2600 and the Mattel Intellivision,
Mm-hmm.
which I do have to make a comment that around this time in the second generation, Mattel actually released some of the first handheld consoles.
Okay.
Do you know what games came out as the first ones?
If it's Mattel,
Mm-hmm.
Hot Wheels.
Close.
So it was a racing game of some
Auto
sort?
Race is one of them.
Auto race. Okay.
And a sports game was the other one. What sport was it?
That's football.
It was football.
Had to be.
It was football.
There's no sports ball.
Just football.
Just football.
Yep. And that was in 1977.
Yeah.
Mattel released these big, and I say big because for its time,
They were.
it was small, but to us, it's kind of a big handheld console.
Do you have a picture of that? Is it the one that looks like a little mini cabinet?
Yes.
Okay, I had. Yeah,
Yep.
we had those all. Yeah,
Yep.
I remember that.
That was the thing that they wanted to push for, is that it was easily holdable. It was
Mhm.
about the size of a calculator, which at the time was still, pretty decently sized.
Yep. Yep.
But it had that new technology of an LED screen.
That's right.
And so it had the images that would move kind of back and forth based on your button inputs.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple games, very effective for what
Yeah.
they were doing.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah.
I remember those.
You
yeah.
had one game. That was it.
Yep.
You played the game.
That was it.
Yeah. Now, obviously, today we've got a plethora of different handheld
yeah.
consoles.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we could do an entire episode just on those.
Oh, you could.
Just because of how much there is to it.
Mhm.
But it's fascinating to me that the first real consoles start coming out 72, 73-ish.
Yeah.
It's not 4 years later we get a handheld one.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, there's a market for this.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
Like how fast things were advancing. It's like, so you went from this guy in the 60s, and then next thing we're in the 70s, like, oh, we need to do handhelds. We already need to do portable. Someone's already
Right.
thinking portable.
Already thinking portable.
And I don't know, I mean, with portable handhelds, that's the battery life is always the question.
Well, back then,
Yeah.
it was one little bitty screen.
Yeah.
And you would light up this LED, or this LED.
And that's it.
And it doesn't take much to run with
Double D
those.
batteries, probably one or two, whatever could power a flashlight.
Right. Not much.
Would power that
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah, and so it's crazy to me.
Hmm.
So then your third generation of games, consoles, is the Sega Master System,
Yay.
the Nintendo Entertainment System,
Mm-hmm.
and the Atari 7800.
Yeah.
And the chart I've got shows that started in 83, and some of those consoles ran till 2003,
Mm-hmm.
when they were discontinued, depending on which one it was. But that's insane to me to think about, because the fourth generation starts in 87 and ran till 2004.
Yeah.
So the third and the fourth generations are pretty similar.
Yeah.
But there are two big names in that fourth generation of console.
Oh, yeah. It's Sega and Nintendo.
Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo system.
And let me backtrack real quick,
Sure.
because there is, so to understand, so when you mentioned the NES and the Master System, you mentioned the 7800. And there is an important piece of history to realize that there is what they call a video game crash.
Okay.
Okay, so Atari had all the market for the most part. I mean, Coleco, everybody's trying to get their hooks in, but really Atari and then Coleco. You still had Commodore 64 doing their thing. Those were kind of your major players. But Atari had a lot of the market share, and they oversaturated the market with crappy games. I mean,
E.T.
Yeah, E.T. Jesus. People are trying to just make games because it's like, oh, it's time to make games, make games. And it's just too many games. There are not enough high quality games. And it just kind of shut things down.
Yeah.
You know, and you've heard the famous thing about the ET cartridges buried in Arizona, or was
Yep.
it New Mexico? Somewhere. I think it's New Mexico.
Out west. They
Out
just
west.
said, nope,
Just buried
we're
in the
done.
desert because
Yep.
there's just no one wanted them anymore. So it caused people to like get this fatigue of gaming, and things kind of got shut down for about a year, maybe two, because Nintendo comes up again in '85, and then Sega Master System in '86. But that is the rejuvenation of the market. So when Nintendo comes out, it's all fresh. They already had arcade games on the market. People knew them from playing just Mario Brothers, not Super Mario Brothers, just Mario Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
In the arcade, and they had this Choice 10 Select thing where you can go in there, hit the button, and select 10 different Nintendo games, and then Sega had a few games in the arcade. So when they hit the market, people were like, "Oh, I know you guys. We've seen your arcade games before." And this system isn't going for like third-party developers. They're making their own games. They have third-party developers. They make their own games.
Right.
So then you get Super Mario Brothers, and then the rest is history. And then Sega comes right behind them with a lot of their good games they had, and it just takes off and it explodes the market. And it's just the race between them two. Atari is a complete afterthought at this point. I mean, you had to be a real Atari loyalist to still go with Atari at this point, because
Right.
Nintendo, I mean, Super Mario Brothers alone killed everything in Atari's catalog.
Oh, yeah.
That one game alone killed everything
Yeah.
in their entire
It was
catalog.
huge.
It was a massive awakening for gaming. My mother, so that is my next big system. My mom bought this game system for us in the summer. I think it was summer of '87. I was trying to do the math in my head. It was 86 or 87. I think it was 87.
Okay.
And she just holds me and my brother hostage because she's like, you got to do all these chores, you got to do all these things. And this is the summertime. You got to be good and on top of it all the way till Christmas, or you're not getting this thing. So the box would just sit there in her closet, and we go look at this box, and like, I don't even know what that is. What's this game? Couldn't open it. So Christmas came, and we opened it, and we just played it all day long.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's when you can tell that, I'm sure everybody has like a story that's similar when they first got that. And so I got, I had a Gyromite, which most people know what that is. That's the robot game, which is weird, the robot. And then you have the gun game, the Duck Hunt, then you have Mario Brothers. And that's what Super Mario Brothers, and that's what you had. And it just, and you didn't really need anything else for a long time. So,
No.
yeah. So, I mean, those games came in, Sega came in swinging, I mean, just going at Nintendo right then and there. And it's just been pretty much on and going for a while. And I'm sure we'll get to that the next piece of that. But Sega had some really good games, too, to where they could compete. So people had either both. If you were the real cool kid, you had both systems.
Right.
But I had the Nintendo, and then my neighbor had the Sega Master System. So I got a chance to play both. And they were both really good. I couldn't tell who was really better. They just both had different games.
Sure.
So I wouldn't have minded a Sega Master System, but the Nintendo hit, and I was like, yeah, that's what we're rolling with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think, we're talking the Nintendo versus the Super Nintendo. I played a lot of the regular Nintendo growing up just because someone had it who was a little older than me, and they had it for a while.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of these systems were released until 2003.
Yeah.
And the fourth generation was released until 2004. I had a Super Nintendo growing up. That was the one I had. That was my first console.
Yeah.
Because I can remember playing, was it Super Mario World?
You
No,
would
Yoshi's
play-
Island.
Yeah, Yoshi's Island was on there.
Because it was the one where you
it was
started as
World.
Mario and you jumped onto Yoshi.
Yep, Super Mario
And-
World.
Super Mario World. Okay, I couldn't remember which one it was, but yeah, I played the crap out of that one.
Yeah.
And that was great time. That was
Yeah.
great. And then I can remember going from the Super Nintendo to someone's house and playing the Nintendo, and I was like, oh, this doesn't look as good.
Yeah.
Like, that small of a difference.
That's it.
That's all it took for me to be like, oh, my system looks better.
Yeah.
Just because it was a slightly newer system that had slightly better graphics.
The graphics.
I didn't understand anything more than that. I just knew that, well, but in my game, Mario can do this, this, and this. I can't do that in this one.
Yeah.
Why can't I run the way that I want to? Where's the this? Where's, none of that existed.
It's not a real thing.
Nope, not a thing.
Yeah, the 8-bit jump to the 16-bit is a tremendous
It's a lot.
jump. Yeah, and you don't realize how big it is until you get there. I was like, oh, this Super Nintendo is crushing everything.
Didn't it?
Yeah, it was like it was just crushing everything.
Yeah, it's crazy. But in that fourth generation, like I said, we had the Sega Genesis, we had the Super Nintendo. Before that, you had the Sega Master System and the regular Nintendo. Like you said, this is the start of what's affectionately called the console wars.
Oh yeah.
Because it was Sega and Nintendo going head to head.
Yeah.
Who had a better system?
Yeah, and Sega really came after Nintendo when the Genesis hit. They had all those commercials. It was Genesis does. They do what Nintendo can't do. Genesis does. And you're still like, and they got like stars and athletes like chanting and singing along with the song in the commercial.
Wow.
Like there was a Joe Montana football, and Joe Montana's like, does. Everybody's like, and you're sitting there like, should I get a Genesis? Because are they kicking Nintendo's ass over the galaxy? So, and it made, so this is when you start getting these loyalists. You stop really being about you're about the games, but now you're about brand loyalty. And it's like, I'm a Nintendo guy. I'm never going to Genesis. That commercial makes me angry. That commercial, yeah. So all these Genesis guys are like, well, we got the best system. I mean, we got the better music. Look at this commercial here. You're not doing what we're doing. That's kind of how it started coming off. And so you have people just making rivalries just off the system alone. Man, find those commercials because they're funny. They're funny the way like, I can't believe y'all did this and got away with this.
Oh, yeah. It's the same as any good rivalry.
Yeah.
Coke versus Pepsi.
Yeah, it is.
Pepsi, for those who think young, because they're trying to say that this is what the cool people
This is what
drink.
the cool kids want.
This is what the young people want. And I
Yeah.
remember being young and be like, well, do I need to drink Pepsi?
Yeah.
But no one in my family drank Pepsi except for my grandma.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, but you're telling me it's for young people, but the only person I know drinking Pepsi is my grandma.
Yeah.
So which is it here, Pepsi?
Yeah. Which one is it?
Which one is it?
The choice of a new generation.
Right.
Yeah.
But going back,
Mhm.
fourth generation of game consoles, if I said the Neo Geo.
Oh, now Neo Geo.
I knew that would set you off.
Man, the Neo Geo was a dope system. It was way ahead of its time. And it cost too much. You had to be the wealthy. Forget being the cool kid. You got to be the wealthy kid. That thing, I think, was $700 in 1987, 86 money, whatever it was. That came out. I think it was 700. You got to look that up. I think it's $700 for the Neo Geo. But the Neo Geo. So what was cool about those systems, like when the NES came out and the Master System, it gave I got the deluxe system. Deluxe system for the NES came with the console, the gun, Rob the Robot, 2 controllers, 3 games.
Wow.
$300. You can't even get that for $300. It might get you a controller, half a game, and some DLC you gotta pay for later, and you might get the console, and still have to buy the power unit to plug it in with or something like that. But the Neo Geo came with 2 controllers.
Yep.
The console. And I forgot how many games it came with, but the controllers were massive. They were joystick controllers out the box. So you had like these massive joysticks.
Yeah.
And you play with them. And the cool thing about the Neo Geo, which nobody had at this time, which is ahead of its time, you could go to the Neo Geo, like an arcade game, or an arcade, go to one of their big consoles. You could take a save card, play the game in the arcade, save your game in the arcade, bring it home to your home console Neo Geo, and continue playing the game.
That's impressive.
That was then. This is in the mid late 80s. This is happening. And I would go there, and they had a headphone jack in the system. You could bring your own headphones, plug your headphones in, change the volume on the console, on the arcade console. So this is what you had to do with the Neo Geo was ahead of its time. It just cost too much money. It's just everybody would have had one. It just cost too much.
$650.
600. I was close. Okay.
When it released in 1990. Yeah.
Think about that. That is stupid money.
$650 in 1990.
That's insane money.
Yeah. A PS5 new doesn't cost $600. And it comes with only a controller, granted, and no games. but it still doesn't cost $650.
I don't think I know anyone personally. I don't think I know anyone personally that had a Neo Geo.
Well, if you did, they would have been one of 1.18 million people who
Yeah.
actually bought one.
Yeah,
It's sad and impressive.
they
at the
had
same
really
time.
good games. Their games were really fun, and I wish I knew somebody that had one. But I would play their arcade. The arcade games were fun.
Mm-hmm.
I just said, "There's no way you're buying it." But the box is massive. I think I saw it in the store once. I'm like, the box was huge. The box is massive. So it was. It looks cool. It's one of the coolest systems that were definitely around at the time. But they're one of those things that there's like, an in between, another option, because there's all, like you said, there's Nintendo, and then there's Sega, and then at this point there's everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a 3DO that comes up at some point in this whole mess. 3DO is who was? Hold on, I've got mine right here. Who did a 3D? There's TurboGrafx 16. That was another one, and I don't remember when the 3DO came out. Oh, there it is, 93. That comes up late, but this is all like in that 16-bit. People trying to push 16-bit and then trying to get 32-bit.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're trying to do at this point in time. So there's a lot of systems trying to compete because the market was just there for the taking.
Right.
It's like, okay, Super Nintendo's cool, but we can do that better. People like that. Well, we got these games. There are fighting games that people had, driving games people had.
Sure,
People still had, I'm going to port this arcade game from here and put it here. One thing that Sega did better, I thought, than Nintendo in some aspects, they had a real arcade port of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Double Dragon is the biggest example. Double Dragon on Nintendo was not like the arcade. It was one player.
Mm.
If you put two players in, you played one at a time. It was not at the same time. And then some of the stages were not the stages that you saw in the arcade game. The Genesis version, was it Genesis Master? It was Master System. The Master System version of it played like the arcade game.
Did it?
It played exactly like it. And I was like, well, why can't you just do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I started realizing, all of these games are not going to be the same every time like the arcade. So then people would hunt that down. Like,
Gotcha.
Is this arcade port like accurate, or is this like did you make it up? And it's probably some of it's because you can't run it. You don't have enough power to do it.
No. These systems in the 80s and early 90s, they weren't that powerful for what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And honestly, a hot take here, that's something that I personally don't like about Nintendo games is, and let me phrase this correctly. Nintendo games are fun for what they are.
Yeah.
But Nintendo's systems have never been the most powerful system. And that's okay. Now, it might have been the most powerful back in the 80s.
Yeah.
When it was the new top dog.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, they've relied on their pretty fun, simplistic graphics.
Mm-hmm.
And it works great for them.
Yep.
And they know their lane. They know their market. They stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
But they've never been trying to be the one who releases the powerhouse that can do complex processing. Does every game need to be super overly complex in processing? No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Nintendo does still excel today, especially considering they were coming out in the 80s.
Yeah.
And they're still relevant today, taking my money from me.
All the time.
Because they know their market.
Yeah. And another thing to add on to that, they kept it that way. They don't put a lot of power in the system because they want to make everything affordable.
Right.
They know if they try to be the best on the block with the most powerful system, they have to charge you like what PlayStation charge you.
Right.
$500. We want $500 right now.
Right.
That's just for the system, and you're gonna get one controller. And Nintendo's like, I remember we used to give 2 controllers.
Right.
And $500, our fan base might expect 2 controllers.
You look at the Nintendo 64, it came with 4 controller ports.
Yeah.
Built into the thing.
Into it, yeah.
Because they wanted you to be able to play with your friends.
Exactly.
They wanted you to play Mario Kart with your friends.
Yep.
And not just 2 of you playing.
Yeah.
Here, play 4 of you on the same screen.
Mm-hmm.
And that was huge.
Yeah.
That was like the kid who had the 64.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one you wanted to go to his house for the sleepover.
Yep.
Because you're like, okay, sweet. We get to stay up all night playing GoldenEye.
Mm-hmm.
We get to stay up all night playing Mario. We get to play the different Pokemon Stadium games.
Yeah.
I mean,
fun.
It was all sorts of fun because there were 4 of you getting to play games together.
Yeah.
Now, there were still some games that were only 2-player. And like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of Nintendo because most of their games are more simplified.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm also not out here trying to play shooters. And there's a great time and a place to play a lot of good Nintendo games.
Exactly.
Because they are just fun. Mario Party. It's
Mario
good,
Party's
just
good time.
fun.
Yeah.
Sit around, have fun with your friends, hang out all night. GoldenEye, try to figure out how to have 3 hands all of a sudden because of the 64's controller.
It was wild.
And not really knowing how to do first-person shooters yet.
Yeah.
And it was just so awkward and clanky.
Adapt.
You're like,
Adapt. Be the ultimate killer in GoldenEye.
But it was at this point that I think there was a huge shift when the 64 was coming out in things that have happened. And you've even told me a little bit about this, and I'll let you talk more. But this is where PlayStation comes into play.
Yeah, man.
And now, even though I had a Super Nintendo as my console at home, the first one that was gifted to me that I can remember being gifted to me, because I think the Super Nintendo was like my mom's from when she had me. And so she didn't need to play games anymore. So here, kid, have a video game console.
Have that.
Whether it was gifted for me or was hers and she gave it to me, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was too young to remember. But I remember being in first grade, and one of my birthday presents was a Sony PlayStation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's when I became a gamer.
Yeah. It's a whole new world.
It was a whole new world.
Whole new world.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
These polygons look so real.
Yeah.
Spyro the Dragon was this awesome little purple dragon.
And we're in 3D now.
We're in 3D,
Yeah.
and I get to move through this massive world playing these games. It's not side-scrolling anymore.
Yeah.
It was a whole new leap up.
Yep.
Same time, 64 was coming out.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit about that. Where did Sony come from in this world?
So Sony, this is the craziest story. So Super Nintendo's on top of the world. They're battling it out with Genesis, and they're doing their thing. But Nintendo was always ready to do the next big thing because they have historically been the innovators. They've always been the innovators. I mean, we get most of our ideas from Nintendo, from a gaming perspective. So they had an idea like so. Sega did a thing called Sega CD-ROM. They did this.
That came out with the Sega Saturn.
The Saturn,
which was at the same time in the 5th generation of games consoles.
Yeah, so Saturn's coming out, things are happening, and Nintendo's like, it's time to make a move.
Okay.
And so they had this grand idea. It's like, we want to go disc. We can do some disc work. And they had been researching it, and it's like, we found this company, Sony, that has been doing great. They did the Walkman. They do a lot of hardware, right?
Yep.
Things that Sony is known for was the Walkman. I think they've got VCRs, things like that. Anything that any of those electronics, right? So they're like, oh, let's team up. Yep. We can do this. Let's team up and make this console. And at first, Nintendo just wanted them to do the disc drive piece of it. Nintendo's gonna have this console where you can play cartridges and disc.
Ooh.
And Sony's like, we just make this whole thing for you guys because there was going to be an add-on, like the Sega, like the Saturn CD thing. They were going to make an add-on for it.
Okay.
They were going to do that piece. Then the conversation shifted. It's like, nah, let's just make the whole system, and we can do this thing as a disc. And Nintendo's like, all right, we can do that. They signed some contracts. There's some things that they're doing, making the business moves happen. And out of the blue, I don't know, I say out of the blue, but lo and behold, maybe is the better way to do it. Someone starts reading all the information in this contract. And they're like, Sony's going to get, like, all the rights to the publishing rights. Like, so your games become their games. And so this freaked Nintendo out. I was like, wait, Sony's trying to get into the gaming market, but they're kind of like subterfuge. They're going to use the console that they're making for us, but now we become one of their third-party developers is what the game is. Nintendo's like, no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, unfortunately, from a Nintendo business perspective, they had been helping Sony make this system.
Yep.
So Sony had the blueprint to make a gaming console. And then you can look up stuff on this. So it's supposed to be called like the Nintendo PlayStation. They have different words for it, but that's what it's going to be. Nintendo pulls out of the agreement. They say, nah, we're canceling, we're getting out. And they went with, I think it was Philips to make a CD-ROM thing. And it failed. It didn't work. All right. So they were going to go back to cartridges. Well, all these people have seen, like all their third-party people that went Nintendo this entire time have already gotten a glimpse of all the stuff that they've been working with Sony.
Right.
They're already making CDs. They're putting their next generation of games on CD. We're moving forward with this. Yeah. Screw what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
And wait, so Sony has this system, and Sony's putting it out there like, yeah, we got a system. We just need games. It's like, okay, we got games. It's like, okay, you want to work with us? Sure, because they're not doing CDs. They can go back to cartridges.
Hey,
We're not gonna do
as
that.
much as I've already knocked on um, all things Nintendo,
Yeah.
I am impressed at how much they have done with their cartridges.
Oh, it's been
Even
brilliant.
today, they're
Oh,
still
yeah.
using
Oh,
them.
yeah.
For the GameCube, they used the small disc for a little bit to be like, we made discs.
Oh, yeah.
And then for the Wii, they just like, we made some discs.
Mm-hmm.
And then for even the Wii U, they're like, hey, we have discs.
Mm-hmm.
But what did they do as soon as they went to the Switch? Cartridge.
Yeah.
Here's a cartridge.
Hard to do piracy on cartridges.
Yeah.
Hard to do.
Hard to do.
Hard to do. And that's one of the reasons they
But it's a bigger limiter.
It's a bigger. Oh, it is a
It's a
limiter.
bigger limiter.
It's a limiter.
Today, yeah, maybe not so much because we can cram a lot of storage in a smaller space.
Yeah.
We're getting better at that. And I think that is a huge advantage because it's one less moving part.
Yes.
That is a big advantage.
And that's one of the big pieces there, because think about this now. So Sony gets into the gaming arena, right?
Right.
But the one thing that we know about like Nintendo, even like a Sega, even when you have cartridges, there's nothing spinning the disc that's going to wear out.
Nope.
Right? There's no little laser that has to read
Nope.
the information encoded onto a disc that's going to wear out.
Nope.
And so you start thinking about how Sony operates. Is that planned obsolescence thing? Oh, you give your system 2 years, and it's like, oh, I need a new system.
Right.
So I started falling apart a little bit, because that's where they come from.
Yep.
They come from making devices that we need you to buy more of these. So we can't make it last forever. I can turn on my Nintendo right now. I can turn on my Super Nintendo right now.
You have to remember to blow on the cartridge.
You got to blow on the cartridge for luck. No. You got to blow on the cartridge.
You got to blow on the cartridge. If you don't blow on the Nintendo cartridge, it doesn't work.
It
doesn't work.
It's part of the magic. So
everyone knows this.
Yeah, but it's so crazy how that whole thing, they slipped in there, and when Sony slips in, and the big blow to Nintendo was gonna survive, but it hurt. They lost a crap ton of market share, and the biggest blow, they lost that Final Fantasy. Mm-hmm. They lost that Final Fantasy was the key. It was the golden goose.
Okay, but can you imagine having to swap out cartridges to play Final Fantasy?
I don't know what they were going to do at 7. I don't know how you're going to do 7. I don't know how you're going to do 7 as a cartridge. I don't know.
You couldn't have.
I don't know. They probably could have, but the graphics wouldn't have been tight. It wouldn't have been what you saw.
No.
You wouldn't have got the same product.
No, you wouldn't have.
I don't know how they would have done it.
No, you wouldn't have. But even then, you got Final Fantasies 1 through 7 on the PlayStation 1, right? Or was it any...
No. It was 1 through 6 on the Super. So the NES has 1, 2, and it's really 1.
Okay.
Because the Super Nintendo had what we got is 2 and 3, but it's really 4 and 6.
Okay.
So in the NES, you had 1, and then Japan had 1, 2, and 3. And then 4, 5, and 6 are on the Super, if I'm correct. But I know we have 4 and 6 on the Super Nintendo.
Okay.
And so Sony picks up with 7.
Sony picks up with 7. Okay,
yes.
My mistake.
Yeah.
I remember 7 and 8 being this thick case because of all the discs you had.
Yeah.
And you had to play disc 1, get through it, and then it would load based on the load data from disc 1. Mm-hmm. And then you'd get to disc 2 and 3, and it would load based on the data from the previous ones.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine
the
64 coming with this giant box.
I don't know why you.
Hey guys, do you want Final Fantasy 7? Here's 4 cartridges, 6 cartridges. Yeah. Be sure to keep them straight.
How would you have done it? I don't know how you would have done it. I don't know what you would have done. I don't know how you would have done it.
Because that's the big difference.
Yeah.
Is Sony is got a separate save card from the console.
Yeah.
From the cartridge. Nintendo does everything onto its own cartridge. They always have. And it works fine that way. I say they always have. Obviously, with newer things, they've started getting smarter and putting a separate hard drive into the Wii, into the Wii U, into the Switches. Or I guess just the Switch, as well as some of the other games. But all of their handhelds, the save data is on the cartridge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what they've done. It just wouldn't have worked. So
it wouldn't have worked. I mean, the more you think about it,
a completely different game.
I mean, they would have had to, even when so with the 64, when it came out, everybody thought Nintendo was gonna die because it's like, how you gonna hold up? Like, what are you doing?
Okay, well, also, how are you going to hold the controller?
Yeah, how you gonna hold the controller?
You've got 3 prongs and
Yeah.
2 hands. What is this? Designed for
Exactly.
aliens?
But remember, they had that front area on the 64 that you could lift up and put in extra
You
memory.
You could.
That would have been the only way they
You
could
could
have
also
done
do
it.
it on the controller.
The controller exactly as
You
well.
could put it on the controller, or you could put the rumble pack on the controller.
Yeah.
Which goes back to what we were saying originally of Nintendo's done a lot of innovating.
Yes.
They were kind of the first to really do that joystick.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you remember the original PlayStation controller, it had the D-pad.
Yep.
It had square, triangle, circle, X, cross, technically, and R1, L1, R2, L2.
Yeah.
You didn't have joysticks.
Nope.
You could get them after a couple years. They released some with it,
Mm-hmm.
but it was really tail end of PlayStation 1, starts of PlayStation 2, when their dual shock controllers with the joysticks
Yeah.
and the vibration built in
Yeah.
became the next big thing and kind of the new standard for controller.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Again, Nintendo stays afloat. They took a blow.
Yeah.
They create Rumble Pack.
Right.
They've got the analog in the middle, and it's like, okay, so throwback to Atari. Is that going to work? Well, like, this is Atari with more buttons, so we can actually do more.
Right.
But you just got to hold your controller weird.
Yep.
You just got to have the room to hold
Never
everything.
held that left side of it. It was always hold the center.
Hold
so
the
you had
center,
the Z
yeah.
button
Yeah.
in the back, and then
Yep.
you had the buttons on the right.
But you played. But here's the funny thing about so let's say, I don't know, what would be your best games you play on the PlayStation? Obviously Final Fantasy VII, and for me, Tactics, Final Fantasy Tactics, Gran Turismo.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'm Bushido Blade. That's nerdy.
That's okay.
That's super nerdy.
That's-
Some
Two Nerds versus the Internet, buddy. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome to the show. There were some fighting games I liked.
But see, for me, as a younger kid, it was Spyro.
Okay,
Spyro
Spyro,
2,
yeah.
Spyro 3.
Okay. Bandicoot? Did you ever get
Crash
the
Bandicoot.
Okay.
I love me some Crash Bandicoot.
Okay.
Croc.
I didn't
The
play
little
Croc.
bitty Croc. They've got a new version of it coming out soon.
Okay.
We're re-releasing it.
Did not
I
know
played
that.
a lot of those platformer games
Yeah.
on the PlayStation. That was my bread and butter.
Gotcha.
Was kind of the new age, new wave of platformers. Not just side-scrolling, 3D worlds.
Yeah.
And again, hot take, I can't stand Mario 64.
It's, what's funny about that, and it is a hot take because a lot of people love it, but even I have never gone all the way through that whole game.
It's difficult.
It's strange to
I
try
remember
to use
playing it as a kid and thinking, what the hell is this camera?
Yeah.
When I have a PlayStation,
Yeah.
and I didn't have any of those issues.
No issues.
None. Because
Yeah.
by the time I'm really getting into it, I did have joysticks on my PS1 controllers.
Yeah.
That's how late into the PlayStation I got. Okay. So I had camera control.
Yeah.
I could choose where I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
I go and play 64 and I'm going, why can't I control the camera? Like, well, I mean, it just kind of follows you. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't see what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, but this is great. And
Yeah.
I've even tried playing it today and I'm like, nope.
It's a
64
difficult
is
game. It's a
difficult.
different challenge. You have to be there at the time and really get into it. This again goes back to Nintendo being super innovative and just really getting us ready for what's to come.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I'll grant them that.
Yeah, we just didn't know it was coming.
Yeah.
And they're really getting us ready because I think back about the 64. I was like you. I wasn't really into Mario 64.
Yeah.
But GoldenEye, Mario Kart, Star Fox 64, and Donkey
I
Kong
did play
Country.
some Star Fox growing up. Donkey Kong Country was really good.
I had to play it.
Yep.
I had to have it. You
Yep.
can only get it here.
Yep.
And then Ocarina of Time, of course, everybody loves Ocarina of Time. Wasn't my favorite, but I played it.
I've never played Ocarina of Time.
It's okay. Because I like Wind Waker better. Wind Waker made me go back and beat Ocarina of Time. I was like, Wind Waker's a better game.
Okay.
And I was like, that's a fun Zelda. Ocarina of Time is work. That's why I beat it because I felt pressured I needed to beat it.
Sure.
To say okay, I've played some tough games. We can do this. Wind Waker was the more fun game.
Sure.
Ocarina was the put in the work and go through pain.
But like you said, Nintendo was laying the groundwork for what was to come.
It was.
And I know that Ocarina of Time laid the groundwork for us to have Breath of the Wild.
Yes.
Which I have played. Breath of the Wild
Fantastic
is
game.
fantastic
game.
And wouldn't have it if we didn't have Ocarina. So
Yeah.
the fans, super fans of Ocarina, and Tyler's even told me the 64 version of Ocarina, not that good.
Mm-hmm.
There's a nostalgia for it.
It's a nostalgia.
He likes the remastered version that came out. I think it was for the Wii U-ish,
Okay.
and the 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the 3DS version of it, he says, is
Okay.
a lot better.
Okay. Yeah.
I've got it on my 3DS, and I got it before the 3DS store closed.
Mm-hmm.
Just not carved out time to try Ocarina
Yeah.
of Time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's something.
I want to get there eventually. Hello, nerds. Future Andrew here, editing the episode a little bit after the fact just before publishing it. And I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. The bad news is I have to cut this episode down. There's a lot of extra content, and that's part of the good news because this is just part one of the conversation. So come back next week for the second half of my conversation with Derek to see what our thoughts are on everything else in the gaming world after the Nintendo 64. Please be sure to like this episode, leave a comment on what your favorite gaming console was growing up, and follow us on Instagram at 2NVI. Share with your fellow nerds, and until then, keep nerding out.